Hi, everybody. Welcome to a another episode. This is part two of the Starry Dynamo November 2023 haul that I did started last week. Before we get going, I want to. There's a thing happening right now. We currently have two major national sites here in Canada that are possibly going to be lost to fire. Um, I don't know. It's been weighing on me tonight. Michelle and I have been looking at the news nonstop all day. Jasper National Park, the fire reached the town site uh, this evening. The Moline Lodge Hotel has already been lost to fire completely, and we might lose the entire town. So it's been weighing on me a bit. So just wanted to say I'm thinking about they evacuated 25,000 people out of Jasper late last night. They've been housed throughout BC and Alberta here, and I'm definitely thinking about them. And I hope they're able to save some of the structures in that town. It's probably one of the best national parks in Canada, as well as Barkerville, which is a national historic site in BC. Old Gold Rush Town is under major threat of a fire that quadrupled in size in the last day. So yeah, just it's kind of a weird it's kind of a weird night because we're going to talk about comics. We're going to talk about some things to be really smitten by and really happy about. So it's weird to also be kind of preemptively mourning the loss of these really important places to me and a lot of Canadians. So yeah, just thinking about a lot of those first responders and firefighters as well that are fighting hard to save these places. Um, with that said, we're gonna get started. Starry Dynamo, part two. As usual, you can follow. Please follow if you like anything that you see. Follow it. I place it over to my side here. As usual, this hits YouTube in about a day. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, I thank you. New people every single time are watching it, as I let these creators and the people who love their work know that I'm talking about their work. I'm getting new people every week, and it's cool to see that and to get the feedback from the creators. If you are watching on YouTube, I do this live on Twitch, so you could always watch there. You could ask me questions. We hang out. We play some games after and do all that stuff. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's get started. Let's talk very quickly again about Starry Dynamo Arts Market. Just to remind you, if you didn't see last week, it's a really cool arts and artisan market here in Calgary. It's run currently twice a year, in the spring and in the fall. And it's put on by Kevin Stebner. That's actually, we're going to talk about some of his stuff today. He's a really talented artist and writer in his own right, and musician and small business owner and lots of things. Kevin does a lot, let's just say that. Also runs Shed Books and does Starry Dynamo. And it's one of the coolest independent markets here in Calgary, because it has such an eclectic mix. It has people doing things like needlecraft, jewelry, apparel, comics, zines, what have you. There's a lot there. So we're going to go through a really cool, eclectic mix of stuff tonight. Everything from zines to larger publications. We got a couple books here. I'm pretty excited to show you. And so let's set everything aside and start with our first ones that are Rachel's zines. So we've got three zines by Rachel. Really, Rachel's Instagram name is strictly playful, and I think that's very fitting. These are extremely playful, and I love them. Ghost Goes on a Walk is the first one we're going to take a look at today. These are great because you can see that they're hand illustrated when they're first made, and it's beautiful. It's really beautiful stuff. So Ghost Goes on a Walk. It seems to be a marvelous time to take a walk. The colors are warm, the sounds are crisp, and magic is around. My heart is full, my cheeks are red. Spooky thoughts fill my head. Yeah, that's super cute. I'm such a sucker for the classic 8-page zine. It's the first kind of stuff I was creating when I was starting to get into zines a couple of years ago, and I love seeing these and yeah, these great little like quick hits of expression and color. I wonder, what if we lived under giant flower petals, singing with our hearts all throughout the night? Oh yeah, look at these illustrations of the sort of creatures that live under that make these flowers. Cuddling until we sleep beneath the winding weeds. Happy imagining to you. Story by Rach. And the last one I have, it's called Ouch. It's about a little blueberry. I Rach, Rachel, if you have not done so already, I need to see you do a full children's, like illustrated children's book. You would be perfect if you have not done one already. Here's our little bruised, poor little bruised blueberry who calls for help. I'm on my way to help. Soon I was brought home and then received some help from the person says, I made you some soup. They take a healing bubble bath. Here for you. Then one day I was better. Isn't that cute? These are great. These are really excellent. And they are strictly playful. They're excellent. They make me happy. Those I needed that. After reflecting on these wildfires that are happening right now, that's the kind of thing that lifts my spirits a whole lot. So I definitely needed that. So thank you to Rach. That's excellent. Whoa, this one's going to be very cool as well. Moving on, our next one. So Maedah Mosaverzadeh did this beautiful, really excellent piece with a nice little slip that goes around it. It's called Tomorrow Remains. Tomorrow Remains by Maedah Mosaverzadeh. Well, I hope I haven't spelled the name wrong. I think there's actually a Z in there. There, I fixed it. This is made in 2021 and 2022. Once again, talking about there was a large creative output that happened throughout the last few years with the pandemic. And I'm someone who always I lean into those things. I want to see what people's experiences were, and I want to see that creative output. So seeing, yeah, this Tomorrow Remains is quite amazing because you're seeing the creative ways that artists and creators were able to share their experience. I think is very powerful. So seeing kind of manifest in this visual way of this tough feelings that we've had over the last few years. Taking a picture of the discarded mask. Mask upon mask upon mask. The grocery carts full of discarded bags and PPE. And the waste. I remember going to the grocery store in the last few years, the amount of waste I'd see there. But then we get what I feel is a pretty hopeful ending. I hope we're seeing sort of birth, wilting, and hopefully rebirth is the way I look at that. It's a very powerful piece. And very beautifully illustrated. And something else I love that they did is they did take advantage of the inner space here as well. Create this large poster. That's also very beautiful. So yeah, beautiful work on that. Very nice. I love the presentation of it. I love the artistry that's in it. It's quite impressive. Yeah, if you like any of these, always, like I said, you can always follow them on Instagram. I think that's a great way to show people that you're seeing their stuff and that you care. I know it always brightens my day when I see somebody follow and start looking at that stuff. Lets me know that I'm at least getting it out to somebody. The next creators here that we're going to talk about, we've talked about them previously in a few different, I think I've talked about them a couple of different times. They go by the name of Bill's Benevolent Association. It's a pair of brothers. It's Evan and Josh Brien. They're both insanely talented. They do, boy, what do? They do posters, they do prints, they do comic style publications like this. We've previously looked through the beautiful set of cowboy poetry that I believe Josh Brien wrote those ones. But it's just so cool to see these two brothers creating together. It's nice to catch up with them at some of these events. Let's go through this one first, called Yes. It is short poems, and we'll read through a few of them. Welcome to Wonderland, a quiet, sad, happy, small place. Oh, we might be able to get through all of them. Nice. Little yellow flowers, weeds, still nice. I love the illustrations that go with these that help kind of solidify that. Huh? I think I've seen that guy before. It's this plant looking at pictures of himself. Lawn chair like eyebrows, losing time. Always be ready for impermanence. Let's get a close-up of that one. Look at that. Beautiful printmaking techniques. Drip, drip, plunk, a splash on my leg. A gratuitous love poem. There are still dust heaps in the corners. There are still grass heaps on the lawn. This bench for Wallace. A poem, the green grass writes softly against the underside of your arm. Ooh, I like that. That one really hits me. A poem, the green grass writes softly against the underside of your arm. Makes you think about like laying in the grass as a kid and feeling that connection. That's cool. Wayne wants a Mercedes-Benz. Some of the plant is green, some of the plant is a little yellow, some of the plant is brown. Yes. Blue graffiti scrawled on a bench. Yeah, these are cool. Like these are like micro poems, I'd almost call them. New spring sun, a shirtless man, seems a bit chilly. We see that a lot here in Calgary, where the second the sun comes out in the spring, there's people just out there usually in shorts, no shirt. It's like 8 degrees Celsius. You know, it'd be like 48 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. A cup of coffee cools all day on the countertop. Those are really pretty. This next one's called A Holy Man Laughing on the Prairies, Volume 1 by Josh Brien. I like this. It has very similar, it's got some of the same, you saw in Yes, this idea of the sort of cutout with rocks. We're getting some of those same sort of motifs, those same concepts. The poem completes itself and says no and says yes. Yeah, more like cool micro poetry with the illustrations are just so nice. I love to see them doing, this is more like a printmaking one. This is more done in what I expect is more like almost like a lithography or some printmaking technique. And this one's embracing more the comic, the comic format, the comic printing. This reads like a bumper during a commercial break on Adult Swim. Yeah, it does that, Doss. Um, they read like those little micro, those little, you could almost look at those as micro poems, right? As like an act of poetry, those little bumpers. And that's what I've always appreciated about stuff like that. Like there's creativity in that madness. No amount of this idea will be more or less good news, because love as everything empty remains more or less good. This idea as everything empty. It consists of the unseen, directly believed as laughter. Ideas apart from the things that happen, but laughter apart from ideas, attempting to know nothing but the green grass. All things of the same wide gap between life and reality, the sun as laughter. I love this. This is almost like this is like illustrating an art installation. Laughter as a logical document delivered from nowhere. Nevertheless, it and the sun are first themselves, and light within the quiet rays shining, measuring goodness to maintain love, love at cheerful breakfast from the point of view of grumbling happiness. But eternity shines through a spring evening. The common source of the eternal is sunlight, always in the beginning of becoming with no predetermined intention. Words with new meanings, reconstructing the person who is and is itself gratuitously. A love poem applied gratuitously. The truth or not found between the poem. Words entangled in significance, accomplishing nothing in every possible way. That's a great turn of phrase. Accomplishing nothing in every possible way. That's really good. Leading to the point where a point of view concludes, the sun gives an idea and points with quiet love. For love and its love seek the sun. All yesterday in warmth without understanding. Meaning is the color of sunshine yesterday, laughing and smiling. At certain moments, the truth or not. It never is before it has more than it waits for. When good and good get away and rise upwards. Crying out still and pure nothingness constantly. The stone implies nothing but the sun. The stone implies nothing but the sun. In a good morning that explains the universe. And I know I kind of, by design, I was reading through that fairly quickly, but can we just take a second to flip back through and just look at these illustrations? They are all at once wonderfully, like, purely hand-drawn, but also almost clinically perfection in some of their lines, and the symmetry and non-symmetry together. juxtaposing the two together, like putting just oh my goodness, like very Japanese influenced, I would say. As you see here, there's actually, the sitting on the floor to drink your tea or coffee and eat. There's that, and in the graphic style itself is a very, very, to me, speaks of Japanese illustration, where you often see that, where there is sort of that melding between the purely hand-drawn, more impressionistic kind of things together with this like symmetry and like, yeah, very, very good. These illustrations are incredible. The writing is incredible. Very cool. I would love to sit down with these two brothers and talk with them a little bit further, about their process and how they do it, and how they. I'm also very interested to find out in how they um, work together. In the comic collaboration I'm in with Gord, I still feel, a couple of years on, that we're still figuring out that sort of like things like division of labor or division of input. Um, and I'd love to, I need to talk to these two some more. Our next one is another one that we've talked about in previous episodes. This is the zine series One Dyke to Another, issues 1 and 2. I have shown issue 2 previously. I accidentally got myself a double of this one, so I want to hopefully, now that I have a double of issue 2, I'm hoping to pass that on to someone and share that around. So this is another collaborative effort between two creators, and they do this great zine series. It's a nice, like, meaty book, and it's got writing, it's got an advice column in it, a whole bunch of things. So it's a small circulation, self-published work or of original or appropriated text and images, usually the product of of either a single person or a very small group. Cool. So it's nice to see that it's this cool, like, collaborative effort. I like that. That's the kind of thing I'm into. Yeah, so they'll do reviews of literature. Here they are doing a review of this book called Stone Butch Blues. Emily's Lesbian Book Review Corner is what they call us, and they're reviewing Stone Butch Blues. Cool. Whether they give it a recommendation. Portraits of the Past is another one they're doing here. A personal essay. Okay, Lady in Red. A personal essay on the fusion of feminism and lesbianism in Alberta in the 1980s. Interesting. Let's read. I'm going to read this one here called Sappho. When trying to decide which lesbian I wanted to pick from the huge backlog of miscellaneous queer history that sits right behind my eyes, I chose to debut Portraits of the Past with the fundamentals of Dykes You Need to Know About. Actually, this one could more or less be considered the origin story for lesbianism itself. Sappho. She was a lyric poet from ancient Greece. Because of this, most conclusions about her life are based on her writing, which often included incredibly homoerotic themes, of course. There has been speculation and rumor surrounding her sexuality, and while I'd say she's pretty gay, the major consensus for a while was that she was simply a whore. Go figure. Which is how that would usually go down in the past, of course. That obviously didn't stop lesbians from imprinting themselves on her and her work. We get the term sapphic from her name and the term lesbian from her island Lesbos. She's kind of like the mother lesbian that all lesbians trace back to. Huh. I learned something new today. And here's a quote from Sappho. Someone will remember us, I say, even in another time. Cool. Yeah, I always appreciate these just because it I get to learn stuff in publications like this. I'm not like I didn't know about Sappho. Oh, this one's got body horror and gore, so we'll skip that one. Yeah, and here's they have this really cool like write-in section for people. Like it's a take on Dear Abby called Queer Abby, which I think is super cool. It's people asking about advice. Questions like, how does seeing young queer people on the street or in public make you feel? And what are your opinions on the younger generations of queer people? Yeah. There's a whole subreddit devoted to Sappho and her friend. That'd be cool. I'll have to look for that, Joss. Yeah. So just these wonderful writings, pieces of art. Let's read this one. This one's called Home Was Stagnant by Leigh van Rootseler. Leigh van Rootseler. And I keep getting invited back there, as if it's still where I belong. How do I tell everyone that home moved to the junction of your clavicle and my fingers? I wayfind by your freckles. No welcome in your breath on my bridge. I solace to your hymns. Each direction of you is north, in that it is true. This is home. That's a beautiful piece of poetry right there. Oh, I've seen these. This is, yes, Sapphic Stitches. This is a creator from Calgary. I've seen them at different markets, including Starry Dynamo, where they do these wonderful embroidery things of nude studies. Really nice stuff. Emily Osgood, yeah, really nice stuff. They're pretty cool. I met them at I don't know if it was I met them at the same Starry Dynamo or at one previous, but I've seen them I think a couple of times. I think I may have also seen them at what's called the Black Sheep Collective here in Calgary, which is another really cool independent market. Yeah, these are awesome. I went through issue 2 previously in another episode. I think it's great. It continues some of the things we've seen, and and does other, does the reviews, more portraits of the past, more wonderful writings, the Queer Abbey section, more poetry. Oh, like here's one. Let's read this one. This is by Michaela Cacho, who's another person we've shown 2 times, I believe, on comXone in the past. Really beautiful pieces. We one of the pieces by Michaela we showed was, boy, probably last year, late last year. It was that beautiful zine that had the heart, the cellophane heart, stitched into it, and it was their poetry. It was just the raw emotion stuff. It was so good. And the other thing we showed from last time I ran into Michaela, which was at the Shelf Life and Community Wise zine party late last year. They had a piece that was that they had designed based on the writings from their partner, who had written the president of the University of Calgary about their handling of the pro-Palestinian ceasefire protest that was happening there, and their handling of that. So let's read this one called Orange by Michaela Cacho. Pass it to me. I can peel it for you. You don't have to share if you don't want to. I wonder how hard it takes to grow an orange. How far does it travel? It's not from here. We're not from here. Sit with me anyway. You took this with you all the way from your home. Enjoy it. One day we will go our separate ways and you'll have someone else to peel it for you. Someone else will love you as I did. Pretty cool. Some more great art. Very cool. I absolutely Adore these. I have issues 1 through 3, and they're quite excellent. We've got quite a fair, like quite a large amount of writing here by Kyle Flemmer. I was very happy to meet Kyle, and Kyle was extremely generous with their creative output in sharing these with me, in trading for my zines. We got 3 pieces from them: Astral Projection, Wiki Poems, and this one called Barcode Poetry. Let's start with Astral Projection. These are all collections of writing that Kyle has done. Let's start with this one here. Astral Projection. Astrum, from the ancient Greek, for star. Asteroid, a minute body in orbit, star-like, star-shaped, planetoid, planetesimal. Asteroids are classified by spectral shape and albedo color. Carbon, zircon, basalt, nickel, silicate, iron, olivine, ice. The main belt, a circumstellar disk, splitting Mars and Jupiter, its rubble piles, binaries, moons, and scattered families, the result of collisions, the displacement of maternal bodies. Astral, a celestial procession. Yeah, I love the sort of, there's a bit of what they call concrete poetry going on here. A very light interpretation. That's me maybe editorializing a bit, but I'd say there's a bit. Anytime I see a very interesting arrangement like this, it starts to take on some of the tenets of what is concrete poetry, where and we're going to see that also in Kevin Stebner's work, that your words themselves and how you arrange your writings, your poetry, becomes part of the composition itself. And I've always thought concrete poetry is very cool. I've never been great at doing it, as evidenced by the grade I got back in college when I had an assignment to do some concrete poetry. I didn't do a great job of it then. Let's pick one other one to do. So it looks like they have chosen. Looks like what Kyle has done is they have chosen a celestial body and then written about them. Pardon me. So this one here is called Tu Pallas. Patron goddess of heroic endeavors, justice in the city, Athena, slayer of Pallas, taker of names, her sorrow worn like an epithet, Gorgon's head upon her breast. B-type, uncommonly volatile protoplanet left over from the primal solar system. An auspicious daughter, occulter of stars. We've got a lot of good writing tonight. Ally in battle, patron saint of inspiration. Palladians have high orbital inclinations, and the occasional late-night coffee rendezvous. Diner apparitions of the artful persuasion, progenitor of Phaethon and his Geminids. A meteoric light show getting brighter every year, as every year she sets herself on fire. These are cool. I love this idea of taking, writing. So there must have been a considerable amount of research that went into this, because not only is Kyle taking these celestial bodies, finding out what the history behind the naming convention is, and how that ties them to the sort of the history, whether it be like a Latin name or what it might be, and also then writing this prose around what the celestial body, where it comes from, what it does, what it's known for, and how it travels through our universe and its place in it. It's pretty cool. So let's read the last 2 pages here. Astral bodies, cosmic entities, stars, comets, asteroids, the super sensible counterparts of material objects, ethereal shadows, parentheses people, projected into metaspace, astral planes, Neoplatonic dimensions populated by immaterial beings, quintessence permeating everything. Astral projection, the psycho-spiritual transposition of spectral entities across the astral plane, or an out-of-body experience. Visitations of the afterlife, semi-permanent, my-themed transcriptions of the human element. Wow. Really, really cool. This is from Above Ground Press from Ottawa, Ontario. It's a hell of a piece. Came out in 2017. This one's also very interesting. So wiki poems. So what Kyle does with this, the way they described it to me is they take, once again, a considerable amount of effort, research, and then melding, the creative process taking over. So what Kyle does with this, the way they describe it to me is they look up a certain topic. For example, here we are, The Handmaid's Tale. They will look that up on Wikipedia, and then they will sort of chop up the Wikipedia entry into and refashion it into a piece of prose, which is another, where I said there's a bit of concrete poetry going on in astral projection. This one takes another thing that people will sometimes do with poetry. And I don't know if there's a specific term that I'm not aware of, but yeah, that idea of taking existing prose, chopping it up, and purposing it and recontextualizing it into poetry. The Handmaid's Tale from Wikipoems. And I love that they set it up so it's reminiscent of how you'd see it on Wikipedia. In a strongly patriarchal, totalitarian, theonomic state, Thomas Aquinas held that if a sovereign were an immensely influential philosopher, theologian, and jurist, authoritatively by the magisterium of the Catholic Church, consists of 24 particular churches and almost 3,500 distinct liturgical, spiritual, theological, and canonical traditions. The Gregorian chant, also called Cantilena Romana, has a later Carolingian synthesis of Roman chant of the Palace and the Dux de Princeps Francorum Hereditary, and second in command to the early kings of France. The last Treaty of Verdun divided the Frankish realm into 3 Lothair. I was given the title of Emperor, daughter of Ingerman, the Duke of Hesse. By Theogen of Trier, Louis's wife Ermengarde is said, a family in the middle Rhine-Moselle region, a left bank tributary of the Rhine, northerly direction of the German Rhineland, and Franks, and become part of the Frankish Austrasia. Both the so-called Salians and Rhineland Franks of Mars, who were also called Sali. A short red cloak, polydamentum, a sword, their statues, for example, the Prima Porta Augustus, and on to the villa after Augustus's death in Rustica, the farmhouse estate permanently occupied by farm buildings separate from each other. Fruit farms, dairy, pig, and poultry farms, principally for food, for example, pork, bacon, gammon, and different from dry-cured ham like prosciutto. Unlike spec alto aldage PGI, from the first documents containing the word spec, older term bakken, a cognate of bacon. Bacon is also used for barding and for roast game birds, and is traditional meat for recreation, sporting, or for trophies. Preserving the entire animal via taxidermy is practiced primarily on vertebrates, mammals, birds, fish. Mammary glands, which females produce milk near the nipples, resulting in prominent breasts. At puberty, estrogens in conjunction with growth, the gonads, the ovaries in girl, hormones that play a role in the correct development of animals, plant, and fungi. So I feel like I need to explain this a little further now that I'm remembering more of the conversation I had with Kyle. So what happens here? Let's talk a little more about how this happens. So what happens is first he looks up this main title, The Handmaid's Tale, and then as Kyle starts going through it, he plucks out certain pieces of the text from that entry and then follows the link. So the last one we see here, this Thomas Aquinas, that's where he followed to find the next piece of prose. And then following again from liturgical was found this about the Gregorian chant. And then following from Ingerman, found out about the Moselle region, which then jumps into that, finds Austrasia, and then jumps into that, talks about Sali, and he keeps reminiscent of that sort of rabbit hole that we often go down in Wikipedia. Kyle takes that to create prose, jumping from topic to topic through the embedded links in Wikipedia. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling and quite cool. And yeah, and then you end up with this set of really quite interesting and crazy things. So yeah, so here they will explain it better than I can. Wiki poems are inspired by the N+7 technique popularized by the Oulipo. To compose them, I began on the Wikipedia page of a popular and or notorious Canlit novel, so Canadian literature novel, located the 7th link on the page, copied out 7 of the surrounding words, counting the linked word or phrase as one, then navigated via the link to a subsequent page, repeating the operation until the poem is approximately 50 lines long. It's cool because it's like a completely random process in that case, but it's ordered yet random. Does that make sense? The oxymoron there. There are several other constraints in effect determining formatting and word choice, being the hyperlinked words or phrases appear in bold, for instance. By mapping a sequence of associative connections made possible by hyperlinked reference text, these poems emulate the intertextual relationships we as a reading culture form with and between works considered literature. Wild. Truly, truly wild. I think it's so cool. Let's put it up by 845 Press. I need to become a better writer. I want to do cool stuff like this. It's so beyond my comprehension. And it's so beyond my knowledge and education in writing. This last one we'll talk about from Kyle Flemmer is called Barcode Poetry, out by The Blasted Tree. Let's read the back to give us a little bit of information. Riffing on company slogans, song lyrics, protest chants, and writing advice, Kyle Flemmer's Barcode Poetry is a 101-part sequence of typewritten visual poems, taking up the complicated relationship between art and commerce. Though made on a 1940 Remington Rand Deluxe Model 5 typewriter, a relic of the analog past, these poems masquerade as the hallmark of digitized consumerism, barcodes, to playfully critique the paradox of creativity under capitalism. This debut collection includes an afterword by the author on composing typewriter art that positions barcode poetry against the commercialization of the culture industry. Cool. I love that it does that. So these are all hand typed. These are all manually typed by Kyle, and it runs through. So each one of them, each of the 101 parts, and we'll just we'll read a few in succession and then jump around a little bit. They're all typewritten, and each one's a single line. So I'll read the first few and then I'll jump around to a few and then we'll move on to our final one. The barcode is not a form of poetry. Ask a doctor if poetry is right for you. Produce art daily with wild abandon. This landfill was made for you and me. Yeah, so riffing on this land was made for you and me. This landfill was made for you and me. God begetting man, begetting plastic. Right this way for gimmicks and frills. If money reigns, where is my royalty? Yeah, so they're just great. Like it said, these are riffs on old protest chants and song lyrics and commercial phrases. Spread my ashes on the NASDAQ. It pays to kill your darlings. More pounds of debt than flesh. Zero will be one and the 1-0. Best practice does not make perfect. Surplus taste on a deficit budget. Yeah, these are awesome. These are cool. These are great. It's a great thing to read before bed. Although I feel like it would seed dreams in my head. But yeah, really cool. Barcode poetry. Yeah, Kyle is extremely talented. Very nice person, too. And finally, tonight, our last one is the person who makes the Starry Dynamo Arts Market possible, Kevin Stebner. I've been saying Kyle Flemmer's name so often. Kevin Stebner. Like I said earlier, Kevin, what does he not do? He runs a cool bookstore out of his shed called Shed Books. Imagine that. Does this amazing concrete poetry using Letraset. Has had a couple of different collections they put out of that. I've got this beautiful postcard, art card that they did with one. It also does this really amazing, once again, like Kyle's work, does a lot of work with manual typewriters. So does a lot of things by doing that. This is more of a zine, but has some of their works that they had done on the typewriter. Cool stuff. He was showing me one year at the zine party. I often see him at zine party as well as Starry Dynamo. He was showing me his actual typewriter the first year I met him. And yeah, it's cool. And he has these colored ribbons, so he can do he can do these multiple color compositions. Another thing he does, he's in 2 bands, I believe, not just 1 band. No, that's not enough. 2 bands here in Calgary. Also did this really great one called the Fried Chicken District, which is basically his own little food blog, almost reviewing every single fried chicken place in central Calgary, just because. And I will be referring to this. I've had some hankerings for some fried chicken lately. So like I said, Kevin does these really amazing pieces of concrete poetry and taking it to its like extreme, where I was saying some of what Kyle was doing in astral projections was kind of like a loose interpretation to me, my loose interpretation of concrete poetry. This is Kevin's take, which goes to like the extreme, where it's almost more a visual than it's harder to decipher the poem. You have to really kind of like sit and stare at this thing to pull the letter forms out of it. It becomes much more of this like letters as visual component of composition, which I think is so cool, and is beyond me. Visual poem landscape using Virtua Black. Yeah, so you get this like sun setting or rising perhaps over the mountains. Beautiful work. Look at that. If I can get this to really focus on it, that would be great. Because it's just, see like that. It's just so beautiful. Yeah, it becomes a real beautiful piece. We won't spend too much time on this fried chicken reviews. because this will only mean something to us Calgarians. But boy, I'm going to be going around and looking at some of these, going to some of these places. There's a place called Wow Chicken that does Korean fried chicken I've always wanted to check out. And I was very, very into what Kevin was writing about it. I like that. I love fried chicken. What can I say? And here, like I said, here are the pieces that Kevin does in the typewriter with the typewriter, which is always throws things for a loop when I'm trying to get things to focus. Oh, there we go. Looks beautiful. Look at that. These beautiful forms. But the main thrust of this one here, make a thing, the Stebnerian way, is, like I say here, an encouragement by Kevin Stebner, just to encourage you to stay, a guide to staying artistically strong and motivated amidst a world of indifference, because you are badass and punk and creative and making stuff is great, and because you should. This is something I need to come back to often, I think, because I often run into, whether it is a creative block or my own inferiority complex or imposter syndrome or all of the above. Hi, Jerry. Good to see you. Making stuff is great. You're absolutely right. And what I like about this is Kevin, who, like I said, when I'm describing what Kevin does between the bookstore, the Starry Dynamo Arts Market that they put on twice a year, the zines, the comics, the fried chicken reviews, the 2 bands, the concrete poetry, the writing. This is the person I need to say, hey, it's the reason, a big thing that Kevin gets to in here is, yes, I am known as a creative person. Yes, I am known as somebody who does a lot of stuff, but it's because I have to find any way to keep myself motivated. And this very specifically is set up to keep people motivated, keep people from hitting that slump. And like they just say, this is like, let's start with the major thing. Number 1, nothing matters. Nothing matters and nobody cares. So why not make a thing? If nothing matters, then you can do anything you want. You can make anything you want, and why not start today? Like, that's the kind of stuff I need to hear from somebody as I struggle with my own certain creative slumps, is from someone like Kevin saying, I create these things, but it's because I just say I'm compelled to do it. Who cares if someone sees it or not? I need to output this stuff, and that's why you do it too. And I go, you're right. That's why I do it. I don't do it because I want to see what people... I don't do it because I think someone's going to review my stuff or buy my stuff. I do it because I have this need to do it. And so this is cool. And this is, so this is make a thing the Stebnerian way. And it step by step does it. It talks about, like, let's just go through the major points here. Like you said, number 1, nothing matters. Nobody cares. So you can do whatever you want. Number 2, why are you doing it? Ask yourself why you're making your art. Number 3, hate the shit away. So what he basically says here, I'll explain a little more. You take any of those feelings of self-doubt or bitterness or fear, and you hate it so hard that it fucks right off. I love it. It's like, everybody should hear that. The next one, hate away all the fear, bitterness, and laziness that forces itself on you. Hate it so you can't be around it at all, that you can only go to where cool things are. Number 4, make a thing. Just make a thing. Number 5, do something creative every day. Keep at it. Keep doing it every day, a little bit of thing. Number 6, do lots, do it all, try everything, follow the muse. Multidisciplinarianism and dipping your toes. I would buy a shirt, Jerry, that says "Nothing matters, smile anyway." That would be a good shirt. Number 7, eat culture. Basically talking about like bring everything in, absorb everything, absorb every single thing. Number 8, tell someone you love them. Yeah, super cool. And then a list of publications that might be other things. Let's read the last one. I'll read the final passage in here. Number 10 says, "Peace out. And with that, I just want to send a thanks to you. The idea for this zine has been stewing for a decade, and I finally put it down and gotten it into the world." And that's something I always think is important. I look at some of the works on my shelf behind me and I say, God, why can't I just buckle down and put out a thing like this book Mobius did, or Joe Dororsky did, or somebody did? And then you look at it and you say, oh, wait, when you actually read about it, it took them 20 years to do it. They plugged away for 10 or 20 years. And so you need to remember that. Even this zine took Kevin 10 years to finally put down and put out. I'll continue here. Hopefully you've gotten something out of this. If not, well, pass it on to someone who might. If you have found this useful in some way, I'd love to hear about it. Drop me a line. The zine is hosted on Kevin's website if you want to print one off at kevinstebner.com. And it finally says, go make a thing. Cool. Really cool thing. That's it. That's everything from the part 2. Let's take a quick look back through all the great stuff that we looked through today. As usual, you can follow everybody. Check out the VOD on Twitch, or check out the archive on YouTube. Go over to as you go through it, you'll always find where you can follow people off to my side here. We saw these great 3 playful zines from Rachel. A very powerful piece from Maedah Mosaverzadeh called Tomorrow Remains. The piece is Yes, and A Holy Man Laughing on the Prairies, Volume 1, with a cat hair on it. You can thank my cats for that. From Josh Brien and Evan Brien with Bill's Benevolent Association. One Dyke to Another, issues 1 and 2. A really, really great, powerful series of zines. We went through these pieces from Kyle Flemmer, Astral Projection, Wiki Poems, and Barcode Poetry. And finally, with Kevin Stebner, we looked at some of his concrete poetry. The Fried Chicken District, which is reviewing every fried chicken place in Central Calgary, and Make a Thing. What a great show Starry Dynamo is. I appreciate it every time it comes around. I have not shown at it yet. I hope to show at it in the future when I get over myself and finally apply to try to be in that. So as usual, like I said, you can always watch us on YouTube. If you're watching it on YouTube, I do this live on Twitch. You can come hang out. You can ask me questions. You can make the comments about what you see and what you like. I love seeing them. And I appreciate everybody who checks this out. So we'll be taking a break for a week. I'm going to be away next week. But in 2 weeks from now, we will be doing another episode. I've got another box of stuff right under the desk directly below here. That is from, I believe, a market from last spring that I forgot to do anything on. So we'll go over that in a couple of weeks. Thanks as usual, everybody, and have a good one.